video I'm going to demonstrate how to use a gathering foot on your sewing machine to create ruffles. So here is the gathering foot. It's just got two plates, as you can see, with a gap in the middle, so like a groove I suppose between the two plates, and that is for one of the more advanced uses whereby you gather a piece of fabric and attach it to a piece of fabric that you want to remain flat and ungathered. But I'll demonstrate that later in the video, but for now I'm going to demonstrate it in its most simple form, which is just to create ruffles on a piece of fabric. So I've clipped the presser foot on there. I've set my stitch length to 5, so I've set it really quite long. You can have a play around with that depending on the fullness of the ruffles or the gathers that you want. But for the purposes of the video, I wanted to demonstrate quite full gathers. So I'm just going to lower my presser foot, and all I do is just stitch away. I've got the fabric underneath the presser foot, and I'll just stitch, and as I do that you'll see the fabric's being gathered. So stitching away, and you can see the fabric's being gathered as it goes into the foot, so it's doing all the work for me. There's no need for me to be pulling threads or fiddling around. And it's gathering it really nice and neatly and evenly, and it's just so quick, which is great. So I'll just stitch to the end of the fabric. Now, as I said, you can alter the stitch length to alter the fullness of the ruffles or the gathers that you want to create. But you can see they're really nice and even. I did measure on a stitch length of 5. I measured the length of the fabric prior to gathering it, and it was about 14 centimetres, and then after gathering it was 6 centimetres. So that gives me a ratio then and tells me how much the fabric will be gathered on that stitch length. So that's just a useful tip if you wanted to make some gathers and ruffles for a specific garment. You can do that so that you know you're going to end up with the right length of fabric. And you can obviously fiddle around with the gathers once completed as well by just pulling the needle thread at one end if you wish to do that. But yeah, in simple terms, that's the gathering foot working away. And then I wanted to also demonstrate that more advanced use I talked about. So in this use, you put your fabric that you wish to be gathered under the foot, and then if you want to attach it to some fabric which you do not wish to be gathered, you slide that between those plates that I talked about earlier. Now, it's a little bit fiddly. It's one of those things that takes a little bit of practice to get used to, but ultimately what you need to do is just make sure this top bit of fabric stays pushed right up against that groove between the plates on the gathering foot. So I'm just going to lower my presser foot, and I'm going to stitch away, and the underneath piece of fabric, the fabric under the foot, will be gathered, and the fabric in the top between those plates will stay flat. So you notice I'm just pushing this fabric towards that groove to keep it in there. And you can go at whichever speed you like. For the purposes of the video, I'm just going to speed it up a little bit. Okay. And there we have it. So if I just take that off the machine now, I'll be able to show you from the other side that you've got a piece of fabric that has remained flat and straight, and then you've got your gathered fabric attached there. So that's a really simple way to join two pieces of fabric, one gathered and one flat. There's also the option to use elastic to create a shearing effect, which is useful for summer dresses and that sort of thing. And to do that, you just put some very thin elastic in your bobbin, and you can go ahead and do that. So I hope you found that useful, and that is the gathering foot.